Apple, as you probably heard, is well on its way to a $1 trillion march here, north of $800 billion of market valuation right now. Money guy D.R. Barton says, watch this very, very closely. Jared Levy says that this run-up is warranted. So, Jared, you're not concerned.
Listen, I'm a realist, right? There's always concern, but it's a justified concern because there's something that I call belief momentum, and belief momentum is increasing, both in the markets and in Apple. You know, Apple, this Drexel Hamilton called it Apple's going to reach $200 a share at $1 trillion market cap. He puts the cash in. I think more 170, 180 is the target because now Apple, remember, there's this potential Apple car, there's this potential Apple, movies type offering that could increase, and both those income streams could, and right now could, in a lot of investors' mind, are enough to drive the stock higher. So I'm on board, moving with the stock. All right,
D.R. Barton, this stock as it fits and starts, it was only a few years ago that it was starting to tank out of nowhere and just sort of reasserted itself in the last few months. Could that happen again?
Could it tank again? I believe it could. I don't see anything imminent, Neil, that would send it there. I think there is. Jared said I liked his belief momentum, kind of a different way to talk about climbing the wall of worry. I believe that the iPhone 8 is going to continue to have some good buzz, and we might even climb up into that. I just don't see us climbing from here to a $1 trillion valuation. So that's the one thing I think people are excited after we've had this big run-up, a 33% run-up here in just the last few months.
Yeah.
But it might be a little overheated right here.
A lot of people step back from this stock, and rather than look at its momentum in this year or over the last year, they take a look at it from its beginning. And if you look at a chart of this thing, I don't want to bore you guys, even though I built a career on it, is that there are these little spikes, and they seem to happen every few years. And then it settles down, and then another spike. It's not, in other words, like an uninterrupted or nice, slow, steady climb. So, Jared, I'm wondering what that tells you. Is this par for the course with a stock like this? If you hold it for the long term, you kind of get used to that? What?
It depends on your personality type. Earlier we heard Warren Buffett. He's like, stocks are erratic, and sometimes they take these breaks, and that's when he buys. I don't.
He's bought a lot of Apple, right?
He has.
Millions of shares.
He has.
Yeah.
And for a good reason. I think. Listen, is it a good stock to hold on to for the long term? Yes. Let's not forget that some years ago.
What's the long term to you, Jared?
The long term to me is 3 to 8 years and beyond. I'm a trader by nature, so I'm in and out of stuff within a month. But I think if you've got this thing in your 401k and you're retiring in 10 years, it's great. If you're retiring in 20 years, it's great. I think Apple has so much cash that if they're up against the wall and cannot innovate, they can go and buy assets from Tesla, perhaps, or someone like that, and grow horizontally, as opposed to sort of vertically. So I like the company. It is going to be erratic. I don't think it's a straight shot to 200. But I think it's a stock you hold on to.
Some stocks become their own little mutual funds, D.R. I've mentioned that with a couple of examples. Alphabet has sort of veered that direction. Disney has veered in that direction besides just an entertainment play, like an entertainment mutual fund. So some stocks become bigger than just being a single entity. Is Apple in that category?
No, not at all yet, Neil. As a matter of fact, if we look over the past multiple years, between 60 and 70% of their revenue each and every quarter comes from one product, comes from the iPhone. So Jared's exactly right. Without a new innovation, without bringing in some synergistic new company, new something else, I don't see them being able to
But D.R., apparently Tim Cook is
25%.
loath to big acquisitions. They have a lot of cash on hand. They could buy countries if they wanted to, but they're very leery to do that. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that sticking to the knitting is probably a really good thing. They have incredible profit margins, the envy of the whole industry. They're doing things right.
But their knitting is that darn phone.
Yeah, their knitting is almost that phone. They're growing services a little bit. They're bringing in other things. They can probably use that cash to innovate somewhere, but to stick to the phone as the cash cow and to bring along things internally, I think that's a plan that makes a lot of sense to me.
Real quickly, guys, while I have you, I wanted to get you on this VIX thing and the fact that it's the lowest it's been since 1993. Jared, do you like that? Worried about that? What?
I traded the VIX for many years. I mean, as an options trader, that was my world. And I'll tell you, Neil, we are in an electronic age, and the market is much different than it was in the 80s and 90s. You know that. I mean, you've seen the difference in the way that sort of information flows. So I don't think the VIX can be used the way it used to be. In other words, I don't think it's a straight, counter indicator. I think the way to look at it is, yeah, there is some complacency, but at the same time, you know what? Markets, there is nothing that's spooking these markets at the point where they're, that VIX should be higher. So I think it's not as scary as it once was.
I'll let it go that you thought that I was on top of this in the 80s, that I'm that old. But DR, what do you think? I mean, there are many who look at this and say it's a counter indicator. People are feeling so sanguine and cocky about things. Uh-oh.
I'll tell you that the data tells us exactly the opposite, Neil. If we look at when we get extremely low VIX like this, extremely low market volatility, what it's telling us is that complacency is we're just grinding higher. There's no sellers coming into the market right now. Every time over the past decade and a half we've done this, we've ground higher, not gotten worried and had a crash.
Yes.
All right. We'll see, guys. Thank you both very much. Super having both of you on.